It's two words, maybe the most overused two words in the English language. I'm fine, said in elevators, in hallways, in doorways on the way out, said so automatically that most people who say it couldn't tell you in that exact moment whether it's even true. You've probably said it today, maybe more than once. Maybe to someone who genuinely wanted to know, and you gave them the answer anyway. Not because it was accurate, but because it was easier, faster, smaller than whatever the real answer would have required. This isn't really about honesty. Most people who say, I'm fine, aren't lying in the way we usually think of lying. They're doing something else, closing a door quickly, before anyone, including themselves, has to look at what's behind it. Picture someone standing in a kitchen, leaning against the counter, phone in hand. A friend texts, "Hey, you've seemed off lately. You good?" There's a pause. Long enough that the phone screen dims once, then lights back up when they finally pick it back up. Their thumb hovers over the keyboard for a second, long enough to almost type something else. Something closer to the truth. Maybe even just 3 honest words. Not really, no. But the message that actually gets sent is, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just busy, LOL." They set the phone face down on the counter. Outside, it's an ordinary Tuesday evening. Dishes in the sink, a kettle starting to tick as it heats. And they stand there a moment longer than the situation requires, staring at nothing in particular, the kind of stillness that looks like rest from across the room but isn't. The friend writes back a thumbs up. The conversation's over, and whatever was actually happening in that kitchen stays exactly where it was. Unnamed, unspoken, folded back into the evening like it never came up at all. I'm fine. Rarely starts as a lie. It usually starts as a shortcut that worked once, in a place where the truth wasn't going to be met well. For some, this pattern was built early, in a home where a parent's bandwidth for hard feelings was thin, where saying, "I'm sad," or "I'm scared," got met with impatience, deflection, or a flat, "You're fine. Stop making a big deal out of it." Children in homes like that learn the lesson fast. Don't bring it up, and you don't get told you're being dramatic for bringing it up. For others, it grew out of being the dependable one, the friend everyone leans on, the family member who holds things together. When you've spent years being the person other people bring their problems to, "I'm fine" becomes less a feeling and more a job description. Saying anything else can feel like breaking character, like letting the role slip in front of people who've come to count on you not to. And for some, it's simpler and sadder than either of those. Somewhere along the way, they learned that the real answer just wasn't going to change anything. That naming the truth out loud wouldn't bring comfort, wouldn't bring help. Just an awkward silence, or a subject change, or someone who clearly didn't know what to do with what they'd just heard. So eventually, the calculation shifts. Why open the door if no one's going to walk through it? Picture a car parked in a driveway, engine just switched off. Someone's been crying on and off for the last 10 minutes of the drive. The kind of crying that comes and goes in waves. Quiet. Mostly just wet eyes and a tight jaw. By the time they reach the front door, their face has reset. A breath held, then released slow. A hand wiped quickly under each eye. And when they walk inside and someone asks, casually, from the kitchen, "Hey, how was your day?" What comes back evenly, almost cheerfully, is, "Fine. Yeah. Same as usual." Watch the gap between those two moments, the car and the kitchen. Notice how short it is. Notice how practiced it has to be to fully rebuild a face in the time it takes to walk from a driveway to a front door. Nobody in the kitchen knows what happened in the car, and by tomorrow, even the person who was crying might half forget it themselves. Filed away under fine, the way it always gets filed, the way it's been filed for years. This pattern is almost invisible by design. That's the entire function of the phrase. It looks like answering, "How are you?" the exact same way every single day, regardless of what's actually happening underneath. A tone of voice on autopilot, the words arriving before the questions even fully landed. It looks like changing the subject within one sentence of "I'm fine," steering the conversation back toward the other person, asking about their day, their week, anything that moves attention away from the door that almost opened. It looks like a particular kind of tiredness that doesn't match the day, showing up not from what happened, but from the constant low grade effort of managing how things appear, hour after hour, conversation after conversation. It looks like surprising yourself sometimes. Catching a tear in your own eye during something unrelated, a movie, a song in the car, and realizing, almost as an afterthought, that it was never really about the movie at all. And it can look like physical signs that arrive without permission: a tight chest, a stomach that's been off for days, a headache that shows up most afternoons, your body keeping a record that your mouth has been refusing to give it. Here's the quiet cost of "I'm fine." Repeat it enough times. Eventually, people stop asking like they mean it. Picture a relationship where one person has said, "I'm fine," through every hard week for years. At first, the people around them ask with real concern, but concern that's met with the same flat answer again and again starts to wear down. Not because anyone stopped caring, but because there's only so many times a person can knock on a door that never opens before they assume it's locked for good. Eventually, "How are you?" becomes a greeting instead of a real question. And the very thing that was meant to protect the relationship, never burdening anyone, ends up quietly thinning it out instead. There's a cost in being actually known too. People can love you deeply and still have no real picture of what your life is costing you because the only data they've ever been given is "fine." Real closeness needs real information. Without it, even people standing close to you can end up loving an outline instead of the whole person. And there's a cost that lives inside you, separate from anyone else. The more times you tell yourself, "I'm fine," before you've actually checked, the harder it becomes to locate the truth later, even in private, even alone in your own kitchen at midnight. A habit built to manage other people's comfort can quietly start managing your own awareness too, until fine isn't just what you say. It's what you've trained yourself to believe, whether or not it's accurate. The goal isn't to overhaul every casual "how are you" into a full emotional debrief. Most of the time, fine is genuinely fine. And that's all right. The real goal is narrower, noticing the moments where "I'm fine" is covering something real, and finding at least one place where the truth gets to exist out loud. It starts with a small private check before the words come out automatically. Is that actually true right now? Or is that just the fastest way out of this conversation? That 1 second pause is often the entire difference between performing okay and actually checking in. Picture trying it once, in that same kitchen with that same friend. Phone buzzes. "You good?" And instead of the usual reflex, picture typing something smaller, but truer. "Honestly, kind of a rough week." Nothing more dramatic than that. No full story required. Just one sentence that doesn't close the door immediately. Watch what happens next. Not catastrophe, not an awkward silence that confirms every fear. Usually just a reply. "Oh no, want to talk about it?" An ordinary human response to an ordinary honest sentence. Proof that the door was never as dangerous to open as it felt. And maybe the most important thing to understand is this. Saying "I'm fine" was never proof that you were actually okay. It was proof that somewhere along the way, you learned the truth wasn't worth the trouble of saying out loud. You don't have to keep managing everyone else's comfort at the expense of your own honesty. You're allowed to not be fine out loud to someone who's actually asking.